Greetings. It is me, Professor Fulton. Yes, you are going to have to watch some pre recorded lectures. This is a blended class. So, our first pre recorded lecture is going to be in Introduction to ENC 1101. First and foremost, please remember this is an introduction. I can't throw everything at you all at once. You'll start to get those buffering signals on your heads, and it just won't be a good look for anybody. We're going to start by going through the writing process. Step 1, analyzing the writing situation. First and foremost, do you understand the assignment? Really stop and read over the writing prompt. Are there any vocabulary terms in there that are stumping you? You should really look them up. And hey, if you're stuck, do not be afraid to ask the professor to explain the prompt to you further. That's what we get paid for. Next up, what are you writing for? I know what you're thinking. Duh, Professor Fulton, you. Well, yeah, now, but you're here because one day you're going to be writing for larger audiences, like your bosses and your coworkers. And all throughout this semester, I'll be sharing tips and tricks for you to do that. Now, some questions in the meantime to get you started can be found on pages 28 through 30 in the Bedford Reader. Now, many of you have opted for Sharp Pack. If so, your textbooks can be found in the Brightware Course Materials tab on our Canvas page on this side of the screen. You click on that, that will get you to your digital textbooks. Who will read your work? Good question. What in the makeup of readers will influence their responses? How old are they? Are they educated? Do they share your values? Are they likely to have some misconceptions? Again, all wonderful questions to ask. What do readers need to know to get them to understand you or agree with you? How much background should you provide? How thoroughly must you support your ideas? These are all good questions to help you to understand your audience a little further. Now, another thing you need to be absolutely clear on before you move on from stage 1 is what type of essay does your professor want from you? There are different kinds of essays out there, from argumentative, compare and contrast, division and analysis, you name it. And each of them come with their own expectations, rules, and regulations. So make sure you understand completely what type of essay they want from you before you go any further down this rabbit hole of writing. Now, stage 2 is the discovery of ideas and pre-drafting stage. This involves doing your reading homework because your reading assignments will be what your essays are based on. And when you read them, you need to practice something called interactive reading. As you read, underline, highlight, place a post-it note on things that you find important, or write questions next to it that you want to ask me the next day when we are talking about the reading homework. Now, if you're using a digital textbook, they've got all these highlighters, annotation tools. Feel free to use them. Now, listen, I know reading sometimes isn't our favorite thing in the whole wide world. There is an example of a student practicing interactive reading on pages 13 through 15 in your Bedford Reader. Please give it a look. The student is underlining, highlighting, writing notes in the margins, underlining things they understand, putting questions next to things they don't understand. Again, this is something you should practice in all of your college courses with your reading homework, whatever it may be. Interactive reading. Now, when it comes to my reluctant readers, if this is something you have always struggled with, please, there is a list of questions to ask yourselves after your reading homework is completed. It is on page 19. In our textbooks, whenever there is something important, there's always a blue box. Be on the lookout for them. What is the thesis of what you just read? What is the writer's purpose? Who is the intended audience? How are you supporting detail structured? What evidence does the writer provide? What is the overall tone of the work? How effective are the writer's words? Does the writer use any figures of speech? And what's great is that they break down the questions even further if you don't understand them, which is fantastic. Now, after you have spent enough time sufficiently interactively reading the reading assignments that the essays are based on, now you can start pre-drafting or planning your essay. Guys, it's good to go into things with a plan. Trust you and me. First and foremost, if a writing prompt is just not doing it for you and you are stuck, I suggest something called free writing. Free writing is when you put 15 minutes on the clock and you just write what comes into your mind. Do not worry about grammar, spelling, punctuation, nothing. Just get the ideas out of you and onto the paper or screen. Now, once that's done, you may have what we call a good start. You may have the makings of a thesis statement floating around in that free writing, which I'll be explaining shortly. Journaling. Do you ever notice that ideas for writing assignments come to you at the worst possible times? Like when you're standing in a huge line at the grocery store or you're waiting at the DMV. You know, our lives are crazy and chaotic. What I suggest is you start carrying a journal with you, and when they pop up, quickly write them down before they disappear into the ether. Now, our phones are pretty fancy nowadays and come complete with many different types of journaling apps. Many you could just record your ideas right on in there. Go for it, man. Now, I'm about to say the G word. Group work. I'll let you cringe and have your moment. You done? I know. Group work. When there is group work in class, I usually try to focus it on an essay that you're currently working on. Pay attention during group work. Actually engage in group work, and you might come up with ideas for your essay by listening to other people's ideas. Who'd have thunk it? Give it a chance, guys. Give it a chance. Now, webbing is another idea for pre-drafting. If you are a visual person like myself, you may have been into webbing heavily in high school. You draw the circle at the top of the page, your thesis statement / argument goes in there, and it branches down into possible body paragraphs. Don't you worry, you're going to be working on webs individually and in groups. This is just an introduction. Now, another type of pre-drafting, for those of you who love lists and are very organized and strategic, is something called outlining. Outlining, you've probably encountered in high school, looks very much like a very fancy list. And you're going to be working on them again individually and in groups. Plus, you're going to have one attached to your final paper as part of the grade. So we will be going over outlines. Don't you worry. Now, before you leave the pre-drafting stage, I always suggest to students that they spend some time just nailing a thesis statement. A thesis statement. Let's break it down. It is a position plus some details. That's it. That's our base definition we're starting with. Do not worry, there'll be another video going heavily into thesis statements in your future. Today, just know that definition. Position plus details equals smiley face. Now, the rough draft comes next, and like its name suggests, it's not meant to be perfect. It's just you getting your ideas on the screen in paragraph form. Do not worry about grammar, spelling, things of that nature. You're just getting them on the screen, dude. Too much pressure on yourself sometimes. After that comes two stages which unfortunately students have squished together: revision and editing. They are not the same things. They are two separate stages that deserve their own time. Revision deals with large-scale problems, such as, do you have enough evidence to back up your claims? Perhaps the paper is 5 pages in total and you only made it to 3. That's a large-scale problem. You're going to need more information. You're going to need more body paragraphs. Now, if you're adding in more information, you might have to go back to your thesis statement and make sure that it could still compensate and cover all your new materials. Another large-scale problem is organization. Different ways to give your paper levels of organization include topic sentences in your introduction. Think of them like previews at the movie theater of upcoming body paragraph attractions. Don't you worry, we're going to be seeing samples. Transitional words and phrases. We're going to be really covering them when we hit the compare and contrast essay, because compare and contrast essays need a lot of organizational devices because you're going back and forward between two subjects and things can get messy if there's not enough organization. Transitional words and phrases build bridges between your thoughts and ideas inside of your paragraphs. You may already be using them and just didn't know that was their name. Like, you may say things like, however, you're preparing to make a contrasting point, or in the same manner, you're preparing to make a comparison. Sound familiar? You might be already using them. Or some of you need to use more of them. We'll see. We'll get you right. Another organizational device is something called transitional sentences. These sentences come at the end of paragraphs and artfully hint to what the next body paragraph is going to be all about. Now, these guys can't be blunt. You just can't be saying, my next body paragraph is going to be about, whoa. It's like hitting me in the face with a shovel. We'll be seeing samples. Don't you worry. This is just an introduction, guys. I can't throw everything at you all at once. Now, in your Bedford Reader, there is a paper that's actually undergoing revision, like in real time. Pages 51 through 54. Check it out. Editing. Separate stage and comes after revision. Editing deals with small-scale issues. Grammar, spelling, and something we'll be covering, MLA issues, standing for Modern Language Association. That deals with how we properly set up our paper and handle evidence so no professor screams bloody murder plagiarism at you. Don't worry, I got you. Now please remember, yes, our computers have come a long way, but your grammar and spell checks are not perfect. You must do it your darn selves, because sometimes your spell check may not understand something called homophone. The homophone that frustrates students the most is there, and there. The three theres. If I had a nickel for every time I've corrected that, I'd be stupid rich. There, as in THERE, as in the car is over there. There, as in THEIR, as in possessive, that is their cat. And they are the contraction there. Stupid rich. Now, another thing to look for during the editing stage, besides grammar, spelling, and MLA issues, is to keep an eye on your tone. You want to be in third person for a vast majority of academic papers. He, she, they, society, people, readers, audiences. It improves your tone. Am I expecting you guys to be in the third person overnight? No. Am I expecting you to make progress throughout the semester? Yes. We'll get there. Don't you worry. Now, there is a sample paragraph undergoing some thorough editing on pages 61 through 62 in your Bedford Reader. I suggest you give it a look. And finally, the final draft. You know, that thing you turn into me while you angrily click the mouse. Some authors believe there is no such thing as a final draft. Some believe that things can constantly be improved. But for this purpose, I need something to grade, so there is a final draft. Now, there is an excellent sample of a completed student paper on page 62 through 64 in the Bedford Reader. Please give it a look-see. A very strong paper, properly MLA formatted, may I also point out when we go through MLA formatting in the future. 62 through 64. Our last item of business for this video is Essay 101 Paragraph Basics. The three main types of paragraphs. One, first and foremost, our good friend, the introduction paragraph. The introduction paragraph is your first paragraph, and you need to do a lot to make a good impression. First and foremost, guys, I'm going to share a teaching secret with you. By the time we hit your paper, we are bored to tears. So bored. We're rethinking our life choices. It's a mess. You need to wake us up and hook us in to your paper. This is called an attention getter. They can come in a variety of sizes and shapes. You're going to have to feel out what works for you and what doesn't. If you might have guessed, I like to open my papers with jokes back in the day, because I've got them. Some people like to open their papers with a call to action. Some people like to open their papers with a famous quote. Whatever the case may be, you need to hook us in. We're bored to tears. Next up, non-negotiable, I want your thesis statement front and center in your introduction paragraphs. Remember, a thesis statement is just 1 to 2 sentences where you take a position on something and provide some details. We'll be going over it in our next video. Breathe. Another thing that belongs in our introduction paragraphs is something called a topic sentence. We've already discussed them in the revision stage. Remember, they just hint to upcoming body paragraph attractions. Don't worry, we'll be seeing plenty of samples. Still just an introduction, guys. Can't throw everything all at once. Now, body paragraphs, aka the meat of this essay sandwich, how you prove that thesis statement. Inside of your body paragraphs, you expand on each of the individual topics you hinted to in your intro. And you do this by making claims, bringing in evidence from your readings to support the claims, and explaining things further. Thus, my formula, C plus E plus E1. Claims, evidence, explanations. For your evidence, there's two kinds. We'll be using direct quotes and paraphrases. I will show you how to properly MLA format them, so no professor's gonna go crazy and scream plagiarism at you. Again, I've got you. And last, but certainly not least, our good friend, the conclusion paragraph. Unfortunately, the conclusion paragraph is the most neglected paragraph out of all of them. I have many theories on why. One, I think it's by the time you hit the conclusion paragraph, you have stopped caring. You're tired. You just want this paper to be over with. You are so done. And it shows. Or you've got like 5 minutes left in class and you got to burn through that guy at Mach 2. Many theories on why the conclusion paragraph is neglected. But that should not be, because that is literally the last thing they are going to read from you before they decide what grade to give you. It needs to go out with a bang, not a whimper. Some things to do for that. One, first and foremost, always revisit your thesis statement. I'm not talking copy and paste that bad boy from the intro. Come on. We know what you're doing. Freshen it up a bit. Reword it some. Revisit your topic sentences. And this next one I highly recommend. It's called forward thinking. This is when you propose another possible paper topic in your conclusion paragraph. Don't go overboard. 1 to 2 sentences for a future paper. They'll love you. It shows that even though your paper is coming to an end, your brain is not turning off. And they love that stuff. We'll be seeing samples. And last, but oh my goodness, certainly not least, the final line. It needs to be just as strong as your attention getter up in your intro. End on a joke. End on a famous quote. End on a call to action. End on a strong note, because literally that's the last thing we're going to read from you before we decide A, B, C, etc., etc. You might want to make it a doozy, guys. Just saying. Well, I hope you enjoyed this introduction to ENC 1101. Our next video is going to be about thesis statements, and it will have an assignment attached to it. Stay tuned. See you in class. Bye for now.